Hi Caitlin, here is the feedback for your mock exam that you completed just before Christmas. So looking at question 1, you got all 4 questions right, so that's a good start with 4 marks in the bag. So moving on to question 2, where you were asked to write a summary of the differences between Eddie and Henry. You've made a really good start with noticing straight away that the big differences in the way that they talk to the dads. Eddie's straightforward, a little cheeky, rude. You've given the example of when he's asking his dad for a metaphor, and then his attitude in response when he raised his eyebrows and couldn't think, and then you've given us a very detailed explanation of what that's telling us about Eddie, which is really good. And then you've gone on to talk about Henry and the way he dresses his dad using dear father. Again, a good explanation as to why that might be. This is a way at boarding school. And then you've gone on to mention the fact that Eddie might consider he's got better things to do. Again, you've given a quote and an explanation for it. And then, same again, you compared the way Henry communicates with his father. That he's quite upset that he didn't get the letter, but he's also scared that the head teacher might find out that he's communicating with him. If we look at the mark scheme for this question, if we look at level 3, it says it shows clear synthesis and interpretation of both texts, and then the first bullet point says makes clear inferences from both texts, which I think you do very well. You've selected clear references and textual detail relevant to the focus of the question, and you've made clear statements showing the clear differences between the texts. So I think you fully achieved the criteria for level 3. I think to get you into that level 4, you just need to consider some other options as well. For example, when Henry addresses his father as dear, my dear father, you could say that it could be seen as a deliberate ploy by Henry, because clearly the relationship isn't that close between them, because he's been at boarding school for 2 years and not seen his dad in that time. So he could be deliberately using my dear father to try and get round his father in a deliberate, purposeful way, if you can see what I mean. You could have also mentioned the fact that everything seems to come so easily to Eddie. I mean, he's in a lovely situation. He's at home with his family around him and his friends, and he's got everything he needs. You have mentioned that he doesn't seem to appreciate his dad. He may take his dad's presents for granted. But there's also the fact that when he talks about it in irritatingly good, it shows that his father thinks he doesn't need to work hard at his work. It comes so easily and naturally to him, whereas Henry has to work really hard at it, and all his father can do is comment on the fact that there's 2 spelling mistakes in his letter. But they're just ways that you could make it even better. As it is, it's a very good response anyway, so well done. Moving on to question 3, where you're asked to analyse the language Henry uses to try to influence his father. You've made a good attempt at this question, and you've come up with some good examples of the language that he uses, with good explanations of how he's using that language to try and persuade his father to, as you said at the end, to either write him more letters or to persuade him to let them come home. So you've chosen the word master, describing the teacher. You said he could be using it to indicate how strict they really are, which is a good point. He's not forgotten to write a sly letter. And mentions the fact that somebody else reads the letters. His good friend Mr. Harmer is the kindest person he knows, so again, good use of adjectives there. and you've mentioned they compares them to the more like bears and Christians, to give his father a good idea that the sons have been treated like animals and that basic human rights have been snatched from them. So all of this is very good. And the one thing that's lacking is the use of subject terminology. You've tended to say that he's used the words and then gone on to give you quote, whereas to gain higher marks you need to be using the actual terminology. So for example, they used more like bears than Christians as a simile. In here we've got the kindest person, good friend, good and kind are adjectives. Sly letter again, adjective. Master is a noun, so you need to be trying to include some of those words to get your higher marks. But I think because here in band 1 it says make simple use of subject term, not always appropriately. When you've done that, you've said word and you've used several other types of words in there, which sneaks it up into band 2, but it's going to have to stay at the lower end of level 2 because you've not used the accurate terminology of simile, metaphor, adjective and so on. So I think it's going to have to be a 4 for that question, which is a shame because the actual content of what you've done is really good, and I would like to see you being in band 3 for this question because I think you're more than capable of reaching the level 3, if not moving up to the level 4. As it stands, you've scored an overall total of 14 out of 24, which, considering this is the first time we've attempted this paper 2 mock, is a really good score, and I'm very pleased with the way you've answered questions 1 and 2. We just need to work on that terminology for question 3 here. So well done, keep up the good work.